Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Green Squad Chats. Today, we're going to talk about negotiating. Why is it important? What are the best ways to go about it? What are a few different strategies that you can use in your business to grow your negotiating skills? Adam, lead us off, please.
I think probably my favorite thing ever comes from Chris Voss. If you haven't read the book, Never Split the Difference. Really just two impactful things to have a conversation in the communication. And he talks about mirroring and labeling. So as you're talking to somebody, when he's talking about mirroring, you ask them an open-ended question, they start talking, and you might say something like, yeah, and then I got to move when I leave here. And all you do is just mirror those last few words like, oh, when you leave there. And what that does is it creates a psychological response for them to continue talking, divulging other information that may be useful in the negotiation. And then labeling, probably my favorite part, is as they're telling you stuff, you label their emotion around this particular negotiation. Well, James, it seems like you're upset about this, or it seems like you feel this isn't the place for you to live, or, something like that. It seems like label emotion, and you're going to basically take that and arbitrage that into the actual negotiation when you get to that part.
I love that, Adam. You brought up one of the two books that is one of my favorite negotiating books. A book that I also like that is similar is called Getting More. I read that years ago, and I would say it changed the way I view negotiating. I think I could continuously improve on negotiating. I don't think I'm at the level where I've got it made. I'm no Chris Voss, but I've certainly improved on it over the years. And those two books, Never Split the Difference and Getting More, have both helped me. Something in the book Getting More that I try to use, or I at least try to be mindful of, is the principle of an emotional payment. And at first when I read it, I was like, this is kind of like manipulating. But once you start to understand the psychology behind it, it actually makes a lot of sense. Let me think of an example really quick. Let's say that you've got somebody whose parent died and they're trying to sell a house. And it's really a traumatic experience for them, letting go of a house that they've lived, maybe they grew up in it. And they're trying to go about it in the most efficient way possible, but also get the most money out of it because everyone wants to do that. That's understandable. They may not value getting top dollar over somebody who can make the process very emotionally easy for them, right? Like not a lot of inspections, not a lot of them having to revisit the principle that the transaction is going on. And maybe they may take comfort in you offering some words of support and knowing that you're confident in your own business process to get the deal done for them. And so that could be an opportunity there. Just a quick example where an emotional payment can go a long way. Like, hey, I realize this is really hard for your family. I've lost family members in the past. Try to relate to them, build some rapport. I'm not saying lie. I'm not saying take advantage of them, but give them an emotional payment, recognizing that you realize what they're going through and you can be an avenue through which to help.
That got me really excited because Chris Voss actually talks about it too. He just calls it tactical empathy, being truly empathetic to what people have going on in their lives and how you can help them best. I mean, negotiating sales is a large portion of it is all about actually caring about what you're doing.
What both of you guys just talked about, James and Adam, it comes down to communication. And I think too often I do this, and I certainly see other people do it to me, where I'm trying to communicate something important, and I can tell with, beyond the shadow of a doubt that the other person is not listening. They are thinking about something else that they're going to say that is completely unrelated. And that, that's the manifestation of the opposite side of this, right? Not having that tactical empathy, not having that, I forget James's word for it, emotional investment.
Emotional deposits, I think is what he called it.
Emotional deposits. It happens every day, right? It happens to every one of us every day by other people. And so, I challenge myself to be better at it. It's hard. Whatever I'm saying, it can wait. And I don't have a good strategy for how to be better at it personally. Maybe I need to carry a notepad around and jot my thought down so I can come back to it. But what a great way to kill a negotiation by not even hearing what the other person is saying.
I've struggled with that. I think I still struggle with that sometimes. What I start to realize, unless it's like a very, very already at a heightened friction level, which probably isn't good for either party in getting what you want. We can go into that in a little bit. I got a point on that. I think it's from the book Getting More, actually. But what I started to realize is having natural pauses and just allowing them to be there is okay. And in some ways it can help you. I'm going to tell you this, and I wish I was better at it myself. So it's not like I have this mastered, but it is a principle I try to remember, I try to use, try to get better at it too. I try to take a breath. If I feel myself getting frustrated, if I feel myself getting agitated with what they're saying and I don't agree with it, especially if it's another agent on the other end of the line, I know what they're doing is an incorrect process. I just have to chill for a second and take a breath, and a natural pause can help everybody because it can kind of settle things down a little bit. What I was getting into there for a second though is emotion versus logic. So it's scientifically proven that when we have heightened emotions as humans, it degrades our ability to problem solve logically. No one is immune to this. And so in a negotiation, when you feel yourself getting agitated or you see the other party getting agitated, people do really illogical things. Here's an example. Road rage. You're telling me you got so enraged by somebody cutting off it that you want to put your family and your vehicle at risk by like ramming somebody. That's like the most illogical thing. That's just a little microcosm, quick example. But so I think when you can either realize when it is becoming too emotional and possibly just put it on the shelf and come back to it, that might be in everyone's best interest so that you can work through a logical conclusion. And also, I think in some cases has helped me de-escalate with, for example, if I'm working with a buyer and they're like, the seller's just trying to get one over on us and I'm so frustrated in this whole process. It's like, hey, let's focus on what we can control. Use your tone, use your pace of speed, use some mirroring, just like Adam talked about. I think that can really help somebody come down in their emotional level. So then they're in a space where they can think a little bit more logically and therefore make a better decision. You're helping them arrive at the conclusion just through nonverbals that you're aware of.
James, you hit the nail on the head with the emotion versus logic. I just closed a deal not long ago where I represented a buyer and we were trying to negotiate for some credits for repairs. And it was obvious that the homeowner had done a lot of work on the home. And it wasn't necessarily up to, professional standards. It wasn't super clean. And there was a lot of touch-up work that needed to be done. Nothing tremendously unsafe. Nothing that really impacted habitability, but stuff that the buyer wanted corrected. Can lights hanging out of the ceiling, some improper splicing, a poorly finished kitchen, and the buyer rightfully wanted some credit to be able to tackle those projects. What I didn't know when we started negotiations was that the seller was a general contractor and had done all the work themselves. And so our request for repairs, pointing out these flaws, became a huge emotional issue because we essentially were attacking the person. And once we, bat on me for not having done my research well enough in advance to know that, and we wound up at a huge disadvantage because you can't negotiate through that emotion. There was very little we were going to be able to do to push through that because the way we had come at it. So, that speaks to both the preparation side of things and, how important it is or how much emotion plays into those discussions and negotiations.
One last quick point on negotiating is if you've ever been in distance running or you've ever been into target shooting at all, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. So if you haven't touched a negotiation in a year, you're going to be really rusty and you're probably going to make a lot of mistakes. But I'm pretty much in negotiation at least once a week. And I make mistakes still. I make mistakes. I got to accept that. And I can tweak and learn from every mistake. Everybody's different. So you got to take a few different approaches with the kind of different people. But it is what is that phrase in the military? Like expendable skill?
Yeah, it's
perishable.
Perishable.
Yeah, that's it. Perishable skill. So if you don't use it, your skill at employing it.
One of my favorite, when we think about negotiation, we always think about, money or price or something like that. So if we're talking about negotiating for something like that, like the price on a property, what you're going to pay for something, I really love the anchor. I really love the price anchor. It makes a psychological effect. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say I'm going to make an offer on a property that's off market. I know I can pay, say, $200,000 for it, but I might say something like, it looks like other investors are buying properties in the same neighborhood for around $150,000. What would you say to them if they offered you that? And now I've just psychologically price anchored them at 150, knowing that I could go to 200. And I didn't say that was my offer, but I get to just let that land and see what kind of response it gets. So sometimes it gets oh no, I would never do that. And then I just simply respond with, well, I'm not saying that's my offer. I'm just letting you know what other investors are paying in the area. And then, or you'll get a response
that's so good.
And maybe they sit quiet, and then you might just ask something like, well, what were you hoping people would be paying? And they might say 175. And you can pay 200. And you're like, I don't know, but let me see what I can do. So the price anchor is really powerful.
Man, that's
masterful.
I wish I could record this script you just gave us on this podcast and then just put it on my phone line to sellers. You just hit me right over the head, Adam, because there is an off-market piece of land really close to a project I'm building right now. It is a project I would buy. He's more than double the true value of it. So he wants, I don't want to go into too much detail because it's still available, but he wants 600 and it's probably worth about 250. And first of all, like, I need to be cautious of how much time I spend on that because it's unlikely I'm going to get what I want. But using that thing that you just said, that the commentary you just provided, would have yielded a much better conversation than me simply trying to dominate him. Like, I tried to dominate him. He was like, well, I'm a general contractor, so I know a lot of these things. I was like, I just wanted to like one up him on my knowledge because I was proud in that moment. I was like, oh, so you know that residential multifamily 16, your lot isn't actually already split and you can only build 2 attached units. Like, you already know that, knowing that he didn't because he wouldn't have priced it at 600. And then he was like, well, what do you think it's worth? I was like, you are priced more than double what it should be. Is priced under 300. Like, here's all the comps.
If you would have just said,
trying to like dominate,
well, it looks like other investors are paying X. What would you say to them if they offered you that?
Yeah, no, I just tried to dominate him with my approach, and it didn't go well, and we'll never speak again. Like, I don't think that was going to be a deal. But here, I'm always open to learning. This is a good example. I don't know. I probably wasn't in the right frame of mind for that phone call, but
one good thing is our company does off market deals in Central Florida and the Panhandle, and we've paid for tens and tens of thousands of dollars of sales training, and negotiations obviously a big part of that. But we're systematic. Like, the problem with a property like that, and we get this all the time, where they want $1 million for a $200,000 property, but we don't really care because we're just going through a process. Number one, to do kind of the initial things you guys were talking about, like Tom, like listening, trying to understand what's going on with their situation to see if we can provide a solution to it. But we'll just go through that process almost programmatically, and we'll still price anchor. Even if they don't accept, we're taking the emotion out of it and going through the process every time with everybody we talk to. That way, even, somebody comes on, they're like, I want $1 million. It's like, well, I'm never going to get $1 million. So I'm just going to like skip the process and say something, go to battle with this guy about knowledge. This guy's never coming down from $1 million to 250. It's just not going to happen. Like, you're making assumptions. Like, you can't make assumptions when you're negotiating. Never make assumptions. Like, that's always a bad move. You have no idea. We've had people come to us, property fixed up worth, say, 600 grand. They're asking 500 and they end up signing with us for 200K. Or we've had people, where they say they want one thing and it's just so routine for them to ultimately end up knocking 100, 200, $250,000 off of what they're initially telling us they want for it once we take them through the process. And that's just because we're identifying what problem they have to solve and we're offering them a solution to the problem. And by the end of the conversation, they're like, yeah, you're right. Like, they arrive to the conclusion that this is my problem that we're solving, because sometimes they don't even know. I do like that solution and I would prefer to work with you guys. So it happens all the time.
To me, that's the biggest part of negotiation, is finding that one thing that they're, locked in on. Is it price? Is it time? Is it their work? Like Tom mentioned, that sort of thing. So if you can find that one thing that they are the stickler on the whole negotiation, then you can, once you find that, then you can start working that issue. Then that's how it becomes a win-win for everybody.
Solve the right problem. A lot of people think it's price. It's funny because we're talking about negotiation. A lot of people think it's price. We're talking about real estate assets specifically right now, but a lot of people think it's price. It's, but they could get more money if they did this. But a lot of times it's not price. It could be something as simple as, I don't have a lot of cash and I really would prefer this to be painless and somebody to pay for movers to help me move. That might be the thing that they would value more than the price. They'll take way less on the price, but they want to do that. Or we get hoarder houses sometimes, right? They don't want people in the house. They don't care how much money they could make. They have some resistance to people coming in the property. So we can go almost sight unseen on some stuff, or, we can build a good relationship so that we can at least see it and get some photos and tell them, hey, nobody's going to have to come through this house. That would solve their problem completely. They don't really care about the price. So again, if you're assuming because you would care about that they care about that, then there is no negotiation happening. You're just negotiating against yourself.
This portfolio that I just went under contract for 15 houses, I mean, she has dropped $250,000 all because she has just reached her max level of dealing with tenants. And so I was able to step in and say, cool, I can get you in and out of there quick. And then she knocked off over half the price, all because I could find the issue that she had, which was tenants. And then I was the solution to that problem.
That's how you win the negotiation.
So in Getting More, he categorizes this as trading items of unequal value. And something that I try to do in the Tampa market sometimes is when I have enough liquidity in my business where it's already sitting ready to go and I'm going to buy land cash, what I do is I enter at an offer that I could improve on. So for example, like let's say somebody's got land up for, let's just say 300 grand. Well, I'm going to go in and offer 280 and I'm going to say I could close in 30 days. And they might come back and say like, oh, we could do it at 290 and close in 30 days. I'll say, hey, what if we keep it at 280, but I'll close in 10 days. And so what I care about the most is the price. I need to get it at a good price. The value for time for me of 10 between 30 days is pretty negligible. But for a seller, they may love the confidence in closing quickly. And that may be something value for them. I got to talk to them to find that out. And so I trade the price versus the time because something that I find more valuable, I can negotiate on in a different term that they find more valuable. So we can exchange some value there.
If it was just the price, if the value was always just the price, pawn shops would not exist.
Anybody got any concluding thoughts before I round us out on this podcast episode?
I think the wrap up here is number one, to Tom's point, be an active listener, solve the right problem, as Marty was saying. Don't make assumptions, price anchor, and James, you called it emotional deposits, but emotional deposits are tactical empathy. Like if you can execute those things effectively over and over and over again, you will be more successful. You will be successful more times than not, and do it in a programmatic way. Train yourself. And to your point, James, it also takes a lot of practice. So you probably won't be great at it at first, but you got to get reps in.
Yeah, I would say we're all still learning. So thanks for wrapping us up, Adam. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll see y'all next time for our next episode.